But as for the Nationals, they made their decision today, and it was to stick with David Littleproud. Our mate Matt Canavan did put his hand up today, did suggest that there was a different way, but they've decided no, let's double down. And the man joining us right now in Canberra is the wonderful Matt Canavan. Matt, nice to see you, mate. What did it feel like, even if you did or didn't know what the numbers were like, when you saw a moment where this boy from Queensland had a chance to step up in national leadership? What was that moment like before you even knew what the result was?
Well, Paul, it was just very humbling to receive the support of thousands of Australians. There's really been an outpouring. I think something like 11,000 Australians sent emails over the weekend, had enormous support on social media. I've had people, just random people, generating content in support of me, and that's just very humbling to have people support you. It's certainly put the fire back in my belly to get cracking on this. Look, I just didn't think we had enough to fight for in the election campaign, and I got through that, but I don't think we gave a real choice to the Australian people. Over the past 5 days, I've got that fire back, that we can do some things differently. We can fight for what we truly believe, and we can fight for a better future for our country. The problem we really had is I've gone through this. I've really clarified my thinking, Paul, on what has gone wrong. If you like, the problem at the election was that we told everybody that the world has gone to hell, your life is rubbish, everything's costing more, but we're not going to propose any radical changes to fix it.
Correct.
Those two things don't add up. You can't say, Anthony Albanese's done all these terrible things, but they're not proposed the solutions that would actually fix those terrible things. And I've at least put forward a platform that I think would help us square that circle and say that, look, let's get rid of all these ridiculous green schemes that are costing a fortune. On the government's own research, net zero would cost $9 trillion to get to by 2050. We don't have $9 trillion. People don't have $9 trillion. And it's about time we put the Australian people first. So I'll keep fighting for that. I may have lost the battle today, but the war against this net zero madness is not over. I welcome the fact that the newly re-elected leader, David Littleproud, has said today that he's open to reviewing the net zero policy. So if you'd like to see the net zero policy scrapped, if your viewers would like it scrapped, get on to David Littleproud, get on to your local Member of Parliament in the Nationals Party and tell them to get rid of this madness and actually put up a fight for our country.
So after considering leadership and contesting leadership, and we know how involved in the fight that you are and as clearly as you can define things, do you want to try to serve in the shadow ministry? Is that a conversation you've had with David Littleproud? Because it would seem obvious to me that if you're a person who many of us would consider a leading light, that you've got to be in the room.
Look, I haven't had that conversation. My position hasn't changed, that I will not serve in a ministry that supports a policy of net zero emissions because I want to keep taking up the fight and the battle against that. I've been doing that ever since we adopted this ridiculous proposal a few years ago. There's never been a plan to achieve it, never been a proper outline of what's going to happen, and you should never set a binding target like this with no flexibility when you don't really know how you're going to get there. So look, I'll just keep fighting against that. Who knows what will happen? As I say, David has opened the window today about net zero being on at least on the review table. So let's see what happens there. We don't have a coalition agreement with the Liberal Party either yet, so I have no idea what the situation will be with a shadow ministry. So all of those questions of the future, but I won't stop fighting, Paul. This has never been about me being leader or trying to change the leadership of the Nationals Party even. It's actually been about changing the policy. That's why I put up this fight, and I think we've made progress on that in the last week.
Now, I say this politely to all National Party MPs or members, right? Is it the tail that wags the dog, or is it the dog that wags the tail, right? And we know that the Liberal Party makes its choice tomorrow, and under the coalition agreement, essentially, obviously, while your own political identity with its own machine and a very good record of being able to hold on to its seats, you are somewhat defined at times by what the Liberal Party does and what it chooses. Now, you've heard everything in the past 7 days, from get rid of nuclear to quotas for this, quotas for that, ditch this, change this, rename everything, change the logo. You're a member of the Nats, which means you don't have a say in the way the Liberal Party goes. But you're obviously interested in how the head of the horse goes here, aren't you?
Not really. I mean, I've only got so much bandwidth, Paul. I've had a big day. I'm focused on my party. Yeah, I'm vaguely aware there's something going on in the other room, but look, I just don't have the mental capacity to think too hard about their problem. Now, look, there's a lot to do for us. There's a long way back here. I'm firmly of the view that we can win the next election, but I don't think we'll have a fighting chance unless we put up a fight. So, however the Liberal Party pick tomorrow, I hope we gird ourselves for that battle, to not be shy about standing up for what we believe in, to keep our focus square and duly focused on the interests of the Australian people. You know, one thing I've got a bit sick and tired of since the election, Paul, is everybody talking about their values and principles of free markets and liberty and all this stuff. It's all great. It all sounds fantastic. But my experience over the last 10 years here is people don't always act in tune with that flowery language that gets trotted out after defeats like this. And I just want us to focus on action. We're here to act. We're here to do things, not write philosophical treatises. So let's think very hard about what we can do, tangibly do, to benefit the Australian people, whether it's to get back to producing energy with all of Australia's energy resources, not just exporting it to our competitors so they can take more of our jobs from us, things like that. Maybe we should get back to building dams. Where's that gone from the conversation? Why aren't we building more dams? We built the Rookwood Weir in central Queensland under the last coalition government. It's going great guns. Let's do more of that. Why don't we have a real focus on lifting the birth rate? It's a shocking statistic at the moment, with only 1.5 babies per woman. That means, the math on that means, Paul, that for every 100 Australians alive today, there will only be 40 great-grandchildren descended from them in 3 generations. Just 40 from 100. And our population will decrease from 27 million to just 11 million people descended from the Australians alive today in 3 generations, unless we lift the birth rate from 1.5 babies per woman.
Well, and we know that number that everyone looks to is 44 million people by the 2060s. So do the maths on, as you say, the descendants of everyone who is here.
The rest have to be from somewhere else then.
Correct, right? And then, of course, the Ponzi scheme in and around all of that. Last question here, right? Because, again, I love talking to you. I look forward to our chats each and every Monday night. I'll obviously talk to you off air, but I assume those can continue. But I wanted to say this, right, which is, I remember when we were talking about The Voice, both on air and off air, right? And I'd showed you this poll and we'd mentioned this and this. And I remember you always just saying, look, I don't care, believe in what you believe in, and essentially swing for the fences on behalf of what you actually believe in. How important is that? While people are, again, turning themselves in knots, imagining what 3 years, 6 years, 9 years looks like from now, do you agree it's time to swing for the fences? Back it up with all the smarts and the way to sell something. But if you're going to go for change, go for change.
I mean, what have we got to lose? We've had the most crushing, worst defeat since the Second World War. That's why I was voting or trying to generate change today. What we did last time, I'd argue what we've done the last couple of elections hasn't worked. So what have we got to lose? Let's do something different. At least we'll have some bloody fun if we argue for things we believe in. and courage is contagious, right? And there is something about having fun too. I mean, it's trite, but I have had a lot of fun the last 5 days arguing for what I believe in. And with all these, we actually call them dark nats, Paul, the dark nats groups online, creating all this wonderful content. That's been a huge amount of fun. And it's interesting when you're with a group of people, with a band of brothers and sisters, having fun, you're more motivated, you're energised. And guess what? More people are probably likely to be convinced that you're got their best interests at heart if you really have conviction and you show that you're having fun doing it. And I just think, look, that the election campaign wasn't a lot of fun because we didn't really push for a significant change, which we genuinely believe with great conviction that would be better for the Australian people.
Except, of course, when you were joining me at Seagulls in Tweed Heads. I know that was fun for you as well. Thank you, Matt. We love you, mate. I'm really proud of you today. Good on you for stepping up and always swing for the fences. Look forward to seeing you next week, mate.